have no idea what makes you vulnerable to nurse burnout? Well, I'm going to share with you the top 4 ways to see if you're vulnerable to nurse burnout. Hi, I'm Tracy of Resiliency Within, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell so you can be notified when I put up a new video about living life beyond the bedside away from nurse burnout. These are the 4 ways that I've learned that I'm vulnerable to nurse burnout, and these are ways that no one has ever told me about. I had to find out about this on my own. I've helped myself and other nurses live with resiliency within to live a life beyond burnout so that we can continue to give our healing gifts to the world without sacrificing our health and vitality any longer. Tip number 1, being overly compassionate. What? Yes, I said that. You and I, we're passionate about being nurses, about helping people, and at the same time, we have people in our lives outside of work, our friends, family, neighbors, that also need some help from time to time. Maybe there's even volunteer activities we take on or medical missions we take on where we go help out even more people outside of the hospital. And in doing so, you and I, we end up neglecting our own needs. We prioritize the needs of our patients, our friends, our family members, our parents or children, neighbors, people that need help. And when you and I become depleted of that giving, that compassion, that duty and concern and pull to help people, we become shells. We lose our vision on why we even came to healthcare, why even stay here, are we even making a difference? Tip number 2, being a high achiever or perfectionist. Yes, as nurses, we are perfectionists. Have you been that nurse? I know I have, where I make that IV perfect and I put the dressing on so perfectly, wrap it up to protect the patient from pulling it out. I put my name and date and initial it like it is a work of art. So as high achievers, we will set high standards, high expectations, not only for ourselves, but even for those around us. We might feel like we need to be perfect in every aspect of our job, no matter how small. And when we can't do that, this will lead to feelings of inadequacy, failure, and self-criticism. Also within this group is overcommitment, not saying no to extra shifts, not saying no to extra time off, not saying no to staying 1 to 2 hours. And yet we're already overwhelmed, we're already drained, and yet we still run to save people at the hospital. On our days off, we may feel like we need to prove ourselves. There's often this constant beginners, newbie, novice feeling. Doesn't matter if you're a new nurse or you're in a new department or with a new shift or with a new group of people, we're always having to prove ourselves. And we already talked about the fear of failure. So that's going to show up as maybe we're not going to want to try something new or try on a different position at work because we know that we're not good at it. So that limits us into our capacity of learning and growing and being creative. So we stay stuck working the same position all the time, and that after a while can get really annoying and irritating. Part of being a high achiever is this sense of control. And really, at the hospital, how much can you and I can control? Especially in a chaotic environment, especially when there's supplies and medications that's dependent upon other departments delivering that to us. When we don't have control, that really starts to make us feel aggravated, irritated, and again, that sense of failure, that we can't complete our job because we don't have all the supplies or medications that we need in that moment in time. Another huge thing of lack of control is being short-staffed. Yes. Have you ever worked a shift while being completely staffed? I mean, maybe I could count it on one hand, where everything's great, you have all the right people, all the right places, you have enough nursing assistants or patient care assistants. There's actually a break relief nurse today, maybe even 2 of them. And when we have difficulty saying no to extra requests, it's because we're thinking of the patients or our coworkers, that we don't want them to suffer. But at the same time, we're already overwhelmed. So then it becomes a case of the blind leading the blind, where you have overwhelmed people trying to help other overwhelmed people in a setting that's already overwhelming. So we have to be okay with setting boundaries, be okay with saying no to extra shifts or for staying staying a little bit longer, or just see that one more patient, or just settle in that patient before you go. We have to learn to say no to that. After all, if you and I keep saving a sinking ship, extra help will not be sent because we can still keep the ship afloat. So when we say no, that will let the hospital know, hey, we're going to need to hire more staff. If this is resonating with you, please hit the like button. And also, what have you seen? What have you experienced that makes nurses like you and me vulnerable to burnout? Please comment below so that we can all learn. Tip number 3, being impatient with time, or being impatient with the turnaround that it takes things to get done. This happens to me all the time. This leads to increased frustration and stress. When you and I are feeling like we're being rushed or things aren't happening fast enough, it creates within us a chronic state of stress. And this is a huge problem in nursing, especially when we can't get medications quick enough from pharmacy, or we can't respond to emergencies, or to all those call bells going off, or to all those new orders getting put in. If our coworkers or our patients or any of the processes that it takes for us to do a timely job, if they're not within our control and not within our time, our expectation of time, that can lead to excess frustration inside. And because of this impatience, we start to feel maybe a little bit irritable, a little agitated, maybe even a little overly reactive to just little things. And of course, this can strain relationships between coworkers, between departments, and maybe even with patients and their family members. Even the smallest setbacks for me felt like it was so huge, so overwhelming, like, oh, not another thing. And when this impatience builds up, it's going to erode our compassion and empathy. When we're focused on getting things done quickly, we're less patient with our patients and their emotional needs. And in the long run, this could lead to feelings of guilt, maybe even moral injury, especially when thinking about patients and why their needs aren't put to the top of the line, just like we're taking care of their needs at the top of the line. And in the worst case scenario, this can become a detachment to work, which is a hallmark of burnout. Then there's difficulty delegating. I know for me, impatience makes it hard for me to delegate effectively. Sometimes I feel like it's just easier if I do all the things myself, instead of trying to call or page for the assistant or locate them. And this, in the long run, increases my sense of being overwhelmed and feeling overworked. And this can cause a negative impact on team dynamics. If we're feeling always impatient with our colleagues and expressing so, it can create a sort of tension or resentment within the team. And this can lead to communication breakdown, conflict, and a less supportive environment, all of which increases stress and increases the risk of burnout. There's also self-criticism. Ironically, impatience with others can be masking some deep self-criticism within. I know for me, I often felt impatient with myself, that I couldn't control the time. I couldn't control the delivery of supplies or medications or other things that I needed to intervene and implement the orders. And over time, this self-criticism can lead to feelings of inadequacy or even worthlessness, all of which are linked to burnout. Tip number 4, frequent nervous tension and workplace anxiety. I definitely felt this, especially as a new nurse or when changing departments, changing shifts, changing hospitals, just having that layer of anxiety or workplace performance anxiety. And this creates hyperarousal and stress, which takes a huge toll on our physical and mental well-being. Nervous tension and anxiety, as you know, increases hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. And when we're experiencing this workplace anxiety and stress constantly and frequently, it becomes chronic. And as we know, stress has so much wear and tear on our body, and it could show up in the physical body like headaches, digestive problems, muscle tension, and emotional symptoms like irritability, difficulty concentrating, and sleep disturbances. And we know that anxiety and tension are so emotionally draining on the body. I felt it, and I'm sure you felt it too. We're constantly on the edge, worried about problems that may develop in the future that haven't been done yet, and trying to manage all these anxious thoughts and tension can lead to emotional exhaustion, which is a hallmark of burnout. Then there's a cognitive impairment. When we have anxiety and stress, cognitive functions like concentration, memory, and decision making all become harder. It becomes harder to focus on tasks, harder to remember important information, and make good sound judgments, good critical thinking. This can lead not only to medical errors or patient errors, but also to increased stress and increased feelings of inadequacy, which further fuels the cycle of burnout. And with sleep disturbances, we could have difficulty falling or staying asleep. We're repeating the shift over and over in our mind. What could have went better? How much sooner could that doctor have been paged? Or what could you have said during a difficult interaction with either a colleague or a patient? All constantly playing through our mind as we're laying in the bed. And having lack of sleep exacerbates anxiety and also burnout and reduced job satisfaction. When we're constantly stressed, we're constantly feeling workplace anxiety, it can significantly diminish our satisfaction with our job because it's so hard to get stuff done. Why isn't this job more easy? So then we dread going to work. We might feel less engaged in our task and our interventions and implementations of orders. We can experience a sense of detachment with coworkers and patients. And this can contribute to cynicism, that negative feeling about work, another sign of burnout. And interpersonal strain, all this anxiety and stress about work can lead to problems with interactions with others. We can be more irritable, defensive, withdrawn, and I know that was true for me. Again, this is going to strain relationships with coworkers, and sometimes it can translate away from the bedside to the people in our everyday lives. And avoidance behaviors. In order to cope, we might find ourselves avoiding to take on certain patients, certain tasks, certain delegated responsibilities to us, especially if we know that's going to trigger anxiety. Like having that same patient again today that you had yesterday, that was a major source of stress and anxiety. I'm not going to want to be with that person today. And this might provide a temporary relief, but ultimately it'll lead to increased stress and feelings of inadequacy. Then there's this cycle of worry. Anxiety often cycles around worry and rumination. We might find ourselves worried about potential problems in the future or replaying past mistakes. And this can create a sense of overwhelm and hopelessness, both of which can contribute to burnout. So here we can see how frequent nervous tension and anxiety create a sense of chronic stress, which depletes our emotional reserves, impairs our cognitive function, disrupts our sleep, reduces our job satisfaction, strains our relationships, and increase our risk of errors. All of these increase our risk and vulnerability to nurse burnout. So how do we handle this? Looking up and practicing and implementing some stress management techniques like mindfulness, maybe even therapy, and taking some time off to rest away from work. Need help in tackling burnout in your life? Go to the description box below. I have a free Resilient Nurse Toolkit. It has proven ways to help you live life on and off the unit. Yes, both is possible. Be sure to check out the next video, Nurse Reacts to Nurse Charged with Manslaughter, to learn how you can protect your nurse's license. See you in the next video.